Hi guys, in this video we're going to be looking at underrated albums by beloved bands, and I'm quite sure your favorite band has released an album that was considered underrated by many other metalheads. So enough waffling, I'm going to just get into it right now. Now, Crowbar are consistently great. Kirk's output is as constant as gravity, as reliable as the sun rising and setting. Here's that clarity, passion and heaviness to the album that is intense even by the standards of a songwriter that has already spent decades making those qualities his trademarks. Some of Crowbar's best riffs, vocal melodies, lyrics and production can be found on this release. It's a rock solid album from start to finish, and one of the best albums in their discography. Anyone who's been following death metal or Morbid Angel have probably seen the video for Enshrined by Grace. Probably the heaviest, most evil thing you may hear at some point in your life. Steve Tucker is lovable, quite brutal. All the Morbid Angel albums with Steve Tucker are great, and this album could be the most underrated of all of them. Hell, one of the song's titles is spelled incorrectly on streaming services at this very moment. So obviously this one album is still not getting the love that it truly deserves. Dio and Vinny Appice had recorded Dehumanizer with the other guys from Black Sabbath shortly before making this album, and once again that partnership fell apart over some bullshit, which I'm not going to get into here. But anyways, Dio channeled that frustration into what probably became his heaviest album. They enlisted the services of the legendary Jeff Pilson on bass, and he's an absolute beast. This powerhouse lineup was full of experience and professionalism when it came to being metal badasses. This album is exciting, heavy and relevant. Like Crowbar, Cannibal chords are so damn consistent that sometimes you may take them for granted. This album is mind-blowing, a straightforward title, album art, and a subject matter that is so streamlined and focused. Kill. Pretty simple. If you're still watching and made it this far into the video, thank you. But at this point you're probably wondering, how can this one album be underrated when it has sold millions of copies and was well received by critics and is still beloved by fans? It's a fair question. Everyone agrees that the first two albums are classics, but the best lead guitar work outside of a Randy Rhoads album belongs to Mr. Wild on this album. His playing is incredibly subdued, subtle and reserved. He shreds when he needs to, but more often than not he chooses to let his soul shine through rather than rely on his usual approach. The songs are phenomenal, with songwriting duties falling to primarily Zach and the Ozzy Osbourne songwriter and lyricist Bob Daisley. If that wasn't enough, a couple of these songs were written by Lemmy himself. Dudes and Slayer will tell you that the production on this album wasn't great, but the songs and performances are classic. And as far as the material goes, it's as good as anything that they've ever released. Who knows, we may get a remix and remaster someday, so this album can get the credit that it truly deserves. That was the type of negative everybody talks about Bloody Kisses, because this was an album that helped Type of Negative blow up. Also, October Rust is another great album, but looking at the title track of this one album, World Coming Down, the interludes are soul crushing and totally in keeping with the aggressively dark themes of this album. One step further by saying some of my favourite music comes from a place of suffering, and this album might be a good example of that kind of catharsis. Ironically though, as really depressing as it is, I don't know what I'll do if I didn't come across such an album. The Tony Martin era of Black Sabbath is as good as the Dio era of Black Sabbath, in my opinion. Maybe not quite as timeless, but it's quite close. The single most underrated album in the entire Black Sabbath catalogue is Headless. The 80s plate reverb that soaks the whole mix is incredible. The riffs are among Iommi's best, and Ozzy Powell kills it on the kit. And Tony Martin's lyrics are probably the most disturbing Sabbath lyrics ever written. From what I understand, he sort of jumped the gun when trying to pin down what Sabbath was about, and just went super hard on the evil atmosphere. But nonetheless, it made for a great album. So there you have it, guys. Underrated albums by some of your beloved bands. Let me know of any other underrated albums that you think I probably missed out. But other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.